Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you guys that are new here, I am Marissa and I love learning languages. Specifically Spanish, Tagalog, and Armenian, and maybe a few others depending on how the year goes. But I've been learning languages for only about a year and a half or so, and I have still had so many amazing opportunities with knowing these languages that would have never happened had I not been learning them. And so even though I've only been learning some for a short amount of time and don't really know too much, and others I know quite a bit in, I've still had really amazing opportunities and circumstances that have come into my life over the past year just because I speak these languages, or at least I'm learning and I'm trying. And so today I wanted to share with you guys some of these fun opportunities that I've either sought out or have kind of come to me in language learning over the course of me learning them. And I think there's two reasons that these are super fun. Is that one, some of these are completely random and I have no idea how all of the forces sort of aligned in the universe for it to happen to me. But also two is that I could have lived my life normally. I could have survived without necessarily knowing these languages, but having these opportunities and having these circumstances happen is kind of like the cherry on top. And so, yeah, I could have existed without knowing them, but knowing these languages has brought sort of a extra color to my life and an extra reason to smile and to be excited about certain things. And so it's added this sort of richness to all these experiences that I have. And, you know, these things would have passed normally had I not known these languages, but it is so much deeper and more exciting because I do know them. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So the first language is Tagalog, and I don't know this language super well, and so I think this is such an interesting thing that has come up because you don't have to know a language super well to add a richness to the experience that you're having. So for those of you that don't know, I broke my ankle a few months ago and it required surgery. So when I was in the hospital coming out of anesthesia, you know, you're kind of like, what is even happening now? So I'm kind of half asleep and then I start to hear, you know, a foreign language being spoken, and that's not super rare in New York City. And I'm starting to piece it together and I'm like, wait, that kind of sounds like Tagalog, but maybe it's Indonesian, maybe it's another sort of Austronesian language, I'm not quite sure. So I'm sitting there like half awake and then I hear maganda and I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, this is for sure Tagalog. And so kind of the benefit of being under anesthesia is that no one expects you to be awake and be speaking very quickly. And so I was able to piece together really slowly, like, are you from the Philippines? And because also I was a little bit still coming out of anesthesia, I felt like I was able to say it a little bit more slowly than normal. And so I was like kind of coming to, and I was like, Taga, Filipinas, kayo? And these nurses threw everything down. They dropped everything down and came to my bedside and was like, how do you know Tagalog? And it was just such a fun experience to have that I didn't really have to know that much, but these nurses dropped everything and they were like, how does this white girl know Tagalog? And so we got to talking and I was like, oh, because my boyfriend is Filipino, so I know a little bit. And so when they would give you the food after surgery, they were like, pagkain, and they would ask me, you know, what I wanted in Tagalog. And so it was just a really fun sort of experience to have coming out of anesthesia when things could be a little bit weird. And so my boyfriend was able to come up after that and they started talking and they hit it off with the food and was like, oh, you have to have her try this and you have to have her try that. And so it was kind of like an instantaneous connection, which I'm sure if you know any Filipinos, knowing Tagalog and talking about food is a instantaneous connection between the two. And so it was just a really great experience coming out of a surgery, which yes, I would have been totally fine just coming out of the surgery normally, but being able to have that sort of connection and have these nurses be like, whoa, like somebody is, you know, trying to speak my language and trying to connect with me was a really fun and really cool experience. I don't know, it just felt like such a sweet moment where we had all connected on sort of this extra level, but it was just fun to be able to talk to them in Tagalog, what I could at least, and then see how excited they were about talking about Filipino food and everything. And so this is a circumstance that would have never really happened had I not been learning Tagalog and under anesthesia, so that I had a lot more time to think. So the second opportunity I had was in Spanish, and I work in a completely English speaking environment. Everything we do is pretty much in English, and if there is another language, we do have usually like translators or someone professional to come in to do that. But we do have colleagues that primarily operate in Spanish, and although they can do everything in English, I know they definitely feel way more comfortable in Spanish. And so I was writing an email to them to just, you know, stay in touch base. And I was like, hey, why don't I see if I can do this in Spanish? And if it's way too hard, then I'll definitely just do the English one and send off the email that way. But I actually was going through and felt really confident writing the email in Spanish. And so I sent my first work-related Spanish email. And I only chose to do that because all of the things that I was translating, I felt very comfortable and that I did know that I was saying it correctly. And one of a goal of mine kind of in the back of my head is to work in an environment that that I am able to use Spanish on an everyday basis. And so I thought this was such a great opportunity to sort of get my toes wet and sort of see how it would feel to operate in Spanish on a very, very low danger impact level. You know, if it ended up being that this email made no sense, I still had the English in there. So it was kind of a low risk situation to be trying out my Spanish in. Although I was very, very confident. I wouldn't have done it if I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I thought it was a great way to start to see what it would feel like to write professional emails in Spanish in a very, you know, low risk situation, and to be able to start to see what that environment would feel like. So that once I get to a point where I can operate in a professional way in Spanish, I've had these sort of other opportunities to practice and try things out when I do have sort of that crutch of knowing that they do operate in English, and so they can have that part of the email to look back on. This is again something I could have done in English, but it added such a richness and excitement to it that I was able to do it in Spanish. So the third opportunity that I've had is also in Spanish. So my boyfriend is a video editor and recently had a client reach out to him saying, hey, we have this video we'd love for you to cut, but it's in Spanish. Is that going to be an issue? And immediately he was like, no, I know someone. And so I kind of got thrust into this situation, which yes, I'm very thankful for and was really, really amazing. But it's kind of, you know, a situation that I would not have had I not been learning Spanish. And so again, it was an opportunity that, you know, if it was too hard for me, this client had offered, hey, we do have a Spanish team that can translate things. So just let us know if it's not going to work. So I went through and I listened to all of it and I was like, hey, I can actually understand a good portion of this. Also, I was really lucky that, you know, when you're looking at all of this footage for a video, you don't have to use all of it. If there was a portion that I was like, wow, I have no idea what's going on right now, he didn't have to use it in the video. But I actually ended up understanding a lot of it, even though I had to replay it over and over and over and over again, because I swear it's like a rule that every 20-year-old in every single language needs to mumble. And so it was an interview and there was somebody that was, you know, maybe in his 30s or 40s. His voice was so clear. Everything was so enunciated. And I was like, I know exactly what you're saying. And then they would pan over to the answer of the 20-year-old and it was just all a mumble. I was like, I don't even know what you're saying to be able to put this into a translator if I wanted to. And so that was definitely an interesting experience for me to be like, this is really, really native material that I, you know, am going through and trying to transcribe in a way. It also didn't have to be perfect, which was again another thing that was really great for me to sort of like get my toes wet, because all I had to do was pull something that was exciting and that was positive. And so even if I didn't know the exact sort of words, I was like, okay, so he's saying something about like, hey, welcome, like good afternoon, we're excited to have you here. And so it didn't have to be 100% correct. When he sent back the video, they had somebody else that was a little bit more professional do the actual captioning. So again, I didn't have to do anything that needed it to be perfect, but I, you know, had an opportunity to help him sort of pick out, hey, this is a really good thing that they're saying. They're really excited here and they're saying something like, I can't believe it. And so those are things that I already, you know how to say. And so it was a really good opportunity for two reasons. One, because I got to use my Spanish and I got to hear things over and over and over and over again because sometimes I needed to. Two, it made me realize, hey, maybe I should be doing more stuff like this, listening to native content and listening to it over and over and over again. Because I tell you, sometimes still when I close my eyes at night, I can hear it. I can hear what the announcer is saying. I can hear what the interviewee is saying because I had to go through it so many times to make sure I knew what was being said and then kind of write out a general idea for my boyfriend to be able to pick whatever he needed for the actual video. And so by doing this, I feel like I almost have it imprinted in my head what the correct word order is and what little sort of prepositions go in between what and what native speakers in Mexico would say to say, I'm so excited for you guys to be here. So it was such a great opportunity for me to use my Spanish skills where, you know, if I didn't know Spanish, he just would have said, yeah, can you send this out to somebody else to get it translated? And then, you know, I'll cut the clips from there. But because he had someone very much in-house that was able to work with him and do it with him, you know, it's something that I got to practice and he also was able to cut it a little bit faster. And it was, you know, a little bit dependent on my speed, but he's able to do it a little bit faster than had they had to send it out to a, you know, another translator service first off before doing the actual captioning. So it was really fun for me, even though it was a little bit frustrating because 20-year-olds mumble a lot, but again, it's native content. And so I was really excited to have that opportunity. opportunity. So as I start to think of these opportunities that I've had and different fun things that have come into my life because of language learning, it also makes me think about how can I create these opportunities for myself and how can I immerse myself in these different languages to continue to have these interactions with native speakers, whether it be virtually, whether it be in a surgical room where, I'm recuperating from a surgery. But, language becomes so much more alive when you get to interact with things in this way, and it adds so much to the richness of just your life in general and the understanding of the language. And so I really want to continue to find other opportunities and make other opportunities for myself to really engage with these languages in sort of my everyday life, to make it not so much about, studying all the conjugations or anything like that, but to really embed these things into the fabric of my life. And it's also been incredibly motivating for me to say, hey, you should continue to learn these things and continue to learn these things really, really well, so that A, next time it'll be even easier once these things come up, and two, maybe even more things will come up as you start to find opportunities for yourself to engage with this language in a really, really easy and fun and more natural way. Also, I remember at the beginning of the year, I had written down sort of these goals where maybe they'll happen in certain languages that will get me really, really excited when I can, stop and get there and recognize that they're happening. And so these have kind of become ways for me to appreciate how far I've gotten in each language, even if it's not very far at all. I'm still having interactions with native speakers, which is amazing and so fun and so rewarding. And so I am so excited to see all the other things that come up over the course of the next year or 2 years, or, over the course of my life, on these opportunities that I've created for myself or that have come into my life because I've been learning these languages. So I'm also really curious to hear if something like this has happened to you, which I'm sure it has. So let me know all of the fun little things that have really motivated you along your journey down in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know if there's anything else you want to see here on this channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!